So here is how. So first of all, one thing that I always do this, right? I always take you through different aspects of the creative because I do a lot more. I do talk, I do music, I am a communications advisor. So I probably would make different recommendations based on your creative. But because of the fact that I'm almost releasing my EP, I think it's good to like discuss music so that even all of the creatives, the all-round creatives, could take some notes from this and have a good understanding on how to release a project. All right, so a bit of backstory about me. One of the things that I love, which is one of the first loves that I have, is making music. I'm a songwriter, I am a singer, and I release my own music, and simply because I love it so much, right? And it's a way for me to connect with audiences that are like myself, African, living outside of the continent, in love with rhythms, connect with rhythms, and all of those things that really belong to it. So it's something that I love the most, but it's not something that I monetize of as like my number one thing, as we would all desire. As artists, we all want to be at that place where we make like all of the money that we can from music. But do we really know what it means to make money from music and really build a career out of it? Because once it gets down into business, there's a whole different ball game that comes to it. And as a matter of fact, if you are not really positioned well, really understanding where you want to go and how you're going to go about it, you're going to get lost. And some people, based on contracts and not understanding fully what the business entails, are actually being exhausted and used. And that is really not what you want, especially as an artist who's conscious. I'm a believer, so, that aspect is like really important for me. So, if you really want to bring something into the world and gain what you deserve from it, honey, you need to know the business. But before we get into all that, I just want to give a shout out to all my creatives that, stay creative, stay productive, and still making their art, whether it's photography, whether it's music, whether it's dance. I don't know. I don't care. I'm just loving on you and I'm just celebrating you. Okay. All right. So let's go. The first thing that I do as a musician, I make, a blend of West African music, with R&B, soul, and all of the genres that I really grew up with in this small town called Delft in the Netherlands. My dad is, such a music lover. My mother was, somebody that loves to cook, and people all over would come to our house, right, to connect, to have a good time, and there will be food, music, and all of that. And my dad did a lot of things with music as well, like being in an organization of a well-known festival, and music was just all around me. And he would just collect all of these CDs from Erykah Badu to Kodountry to Papa Wemba to all of those music would be played into my house. And at some point later on, when I was around 10, I was like, I kind of have a voice, I kind of know how to sing. I ended up being in a gospel rap group at our church, but that is for a whole nother story. I've been in different African bands. I've been in the church choir, African church choir, always on soprano. That is pretty much my journey into music summed up. But listen, if you have, the gift of singing and you can sing and do it very well, that is one thing. But really making the choice to go and pursue music as to where you make a career or semi-career out of it is a whole nother ballgame. And the thing is that, especially in this day and age that we are, where everything, all of the information could be found online, it is very important that you are informed, but it's also very important that you really apply it to the journey that you really want to take, the route that you want to take as an artist. So how I finally, make it a long story short, how I finally ended up releasing an EP all the way in 2020 with, international producers and putting that out there with a plan. Here's kind of how I did it. So let's go. Number one is don't treat, your artistry, if you have decided to really take on music, to really pursue it as some place where you will make money out of it. It's really important that you regard things and you really embrace projects within your journey. Why do I say this? I always used to, admire the bigger artists, your Alicia Keys and all of those people, when they would come on interviews on MTV, and they would always talk about a project. But I didn't really pay much attention to it, right? But I had the opportunity to, really looking for a place to have music where through Epitome Entertainment, shout out to Henka Maduro, I was able to kind of dive into what music entails and understand that there are different avenues of making money from music other than just being an artist, where it's also production or making music for film, making music for shows, making music for games and all of those things. So you have to understand that the music business, and that counts for every genre, there is so much more than you just being like a recording artist and being world top famous, right? So back to the projects part. One thing that was really for me was, being able to release single has these days become very much easy access to recordings. You can buy, professional gear, record, or find somebody to record with, and then, introduce a single, which is really good to do. But one thing that you cannot continue doing all the time is just releasing singles. Why? Because singles are pretty much like, they're products that you put out there in the world, but what is strategic and what could actually help you get to your next step as it relates to music is a project like an EP, a project like an album, or a project maybe in collaboration with visual artists, maybe sometimes in a book. It could be anything. But what I mean with a project, it should be, let's say, an overlapping releases of music and content and story that really is under one umbrella of a theme, right? So for example, if your theme now is, sand and fire, so the fire of you pursuing music, in a bigger city or traveling the world, then it's perfect if you kind of put 6 songs under that, 2 videos, let's say a release event or a tour, because you're then, doing something under a project. So it becomes a whole bundle of activities that you do to achieve goal. So that is number one. Always look and strive for a project. Nothing wrong with singles, nothing wrong with, I know in hip hop, you have mixtapes, EPs have now really become something. If you look, for instance, in the African genres, EP wasn't really a thing, but you kind of see it gradually going over, whereby these new school artists now in the African genres introduce EPs to kind of show what they're about. But, we're still into albums. It depends per market, per genre, but that is for a whole nother story. All right, next. Number 2 is really think about your next step. Okay, so a lot of us as artists, we really look, if somebody says, oh, who do you look up to and blah, 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 who's your greatest? We really reach, to the best and most famous artists, which is perfect. But you have to understand that it becomes a bit more easier for you if you're able to take, let's say, 3 examples of artists that are just like 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. Why do I say that? Is because if you are an artist, definitely in the climate that we are in now, where let's say the first couple of milestones that you want to achieve have to really be pushed from out of your own wallet, or maybe the support from family and friends or a sponsor, you really need to push, your first couple of releases yourself and put something together and a nice cover and a photo shoot and all of these things. There are steps to really get to greatness. The thing about, your top artists, depending on which genre you are, if you look at your top artists from Africa, of course, now Burna Boy is an amazing thing. Burna Boy has been doing this for years, Let's say, when did I start writing about him? Because I used to intern for This Is Africa. So I started to write about him, like, let's say 10 plus years ago. You know what I mean? So he has really built up a journey. But if you look at some of the artists that have come on really short term, they have really gone to a process of development. They have gone through a process of having a network, a process of recording, having the right producers, a team that is really considering, what is the right album theme, project at this time. So they are able to be like put in this incubator or a hub and really grow really fast, whereas you have to take every step one by one with the limited funding that you have. So it's really, really important that you understand all that you see is, backed up by great funding and things like that. And you have to be realistic and say, you know what, I'm going to take this in steps. It is more organic, it's more healthy, it's more sustainable for you as an artist if you're going to take it the indie route. All right, so being strategic of what is your next step. If your next step is, releasing an EP where you're connecting with an audience well in the region of, let's say, Germany, or a region of, let's say, a Greater Accra region or something like that, then let that be a step that you gradually take and look at and say, okay, what do I need to do then to match up with that step? Is it 3 songs? Is it for me to, go on tour with a band or something like that? And it would just allow you to breathe. So that is the number 2 that I would really, really recommend. Number 3 is really get you a team, okay? You need a good team. If you really want to be out there and grow as an artist and be able to handle, match up, do collabos and all of those things, you need a team. So that means sometimes selecting people from your group of friends who are really good and test them if they can be professional. Or maybe a friend of a friend that you know, or maybe a music scene conference, music scene gathering. Really find it. I did that like years ago, to 2011. 2011 is where I said, you know what, I really wanted to pursue music. And I just Googled, I ended up coming at a jam session in Rotterdam, and I ended up being invited for, a workshop about, doing your finances as an artist. Look at that. And eventually I was able to really build a network and really find funding to, get my things done. Number 4, get your story straight. This is a world whereby there are so many musicians, so many people into making music. If you're going to cry about what's fair and what is not fair, you're going to cry a little more. This world is not fair. Accept it. And you have to navigate the space. And I'm not saying cheating and scheming in a bad way, but you do have to scheme in a good way. And what I mean with scheming in a good way is that, you have to navigate and really find your network, the right people. Who is a photographer that I could work with now? Could we negotiate like a good, deal? Okay, I cannot pay you fully, but can we do this? Can we do this? You're gonna have to do that consistently. If you can't, find somebody who is able to support you and help you get the right team. So think of a team as, look at, what does a music label have, and gradually grow that kind of team around you. So if, let's say, in, a label, right, there is somebody for PR, there is somebody in marketing, there is somebody for socials, there is somebody for, assistant, there is a manager, blah, blah. Write it out and look in a way of steps. What can you gradually grow for yourself in the meantime, so that you, at the end of, let's say, 5 years, have built a team around you that is like almost a label that can really, root for you, make sure your writing is right, and all of those things. What you should also do is get your story straight. Getting your story straight about what you bring to the market. Are you an artist that is bringing alternative hip hop? Or are you an artist that is bringing, relaxing flavors of West African music? Then really think about that and know that story so that you can always pitch it and be different, from others. In my case, I really, really had to bring it down. I had to find friends that were really good with strategy and marketing to sit down and really work around this brand. What am I offering? How do you see me? You know what I mean? So in my case, I often say West African soul, but depending on the audience that I'm speaking to, I do address the inspirational aspect of my music, the fact that it's always, centered around God, or it's centered around, a powerful message or women empowerment or something like that. It is really, really important that you set yourself a side like that, so that when you are in a room where everybody is an artist and now you really have to make a memorable thing about yourself, you know what to say, you know how to dress, you know how to present yourself, and everything is there. All right. Last but not least is what I would definitely do is really get to a place where you can attract funding, some kind of funding, where you can spend the money that you gain on the music, opposing to spending all of the time the money that you make paying your bills for it. So the first couple of years, you really have to fund yourself, but later on, let's say, look at cultural funds, look at commercial funds, look maybe in ways where friends can support with each $100 or something like that, so that you could really be able to say, hey, my EP is gonna cost, let's say, 5 production, let's say $2,500 or maybe $5,000. Okay, what can I do for next year to make sure that people can support that amount, so that I won't be struggling to bring singles out there in the market, but I could bam, put something out there that is cohesive and that is in one theme and one color and one title, and bring that to the world. If I break it down on how I was able to release my EP, I'm going to explain that one in the next video, and give you a few tips on some of the things that I've learned, some of the lessons that I've learned, budgeting. I've learned the aspect of teamwork, the aspect of what are the metrics, what are the milestones. I've learned the aspect of being open to new opportunities. For instance, I did a concert in a well-known concert hall in the Netherlands, and we did a live streaming, which was absolutely fantastic. What else? Getting amazing photographers, knowing your look, for instance, or knowing things for your videos, what to do and what not to do. There were so many learning processes, but there are also a lot of planning. And in the next video, when my mic is working again, because you probably hear it, I'm going to break it down. How did I release my EP? So let me know in the comment box some of the points that I might have forgotten, artists, creatives, if there's anything that you would like to add. How do you think about this? Do these 5 points break it down, or do you lack something? Let me know so that we get into it. I am MS.ABA. Make sure that you subscribe, press the subscribe button, and see you next time.